every time they have tried to control people in a certain way, it's always going to be some backlash, and it's always going to be some like breaking of the window. Now, I think they've made us like addicted and reliant on a lot of these things, but when they push too far, humans and our freedom spirit is always going to either create something else or do something else. Um, and so I think it'll be worse before it gets better. I thought that we were moving back towards like freedom of speech, especially with some of these tech people. Like, I feel like they were supporting Trump so that they could go back to more freedom of speech, and they might have taken down some of the like fact checkers, but they haven't. It's still clearly creating a certain narrative and agenda. Like, I haven't been on X, I haven't been on Twitter, but I've heard that the vibe has completely changed, and the content that's allowed to grow on there has completely shifted. And so it shows that there's still a high level of curation when it comes to these platforms. Um, that again we have to be mindful of, because that's on everything. But like, just being mindful that that's what's happening, and it's not just people being able to talk and be freely, but there is a certain narrative that's being promoted and allowed to grow, even if it is just allowing conflict to happen or confusion, or just making it so that we can look at our cameras for as long as possible, and them using facial recognition so that I can now be a character on some app. Mm,
The things that I've reacted to in this year alone, it got me looking at my TV sideways. It got me looking at my phone sideways. It got me looking at my laptop sideways. Everything got something built into it that's pretty much watching you. And you wouldn't believe it until someone actually does a test on it, and then you see it in real time. It's like, well, okay, all right, this is a little creepy,
mm-hmm,
but it's not creepy enough for you to stop doing what you've been doing on a regular basis. Like, and
mm,
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna leave it here. Imagine if I could just pull up one video that I've done where they actually show you what your device does, like this part of the camera right here, what it actually does when you're not using it. I'm not talking about when you're scrolling and I'm talking when it's off. This is still running. There's no visible light to it, but it's still running. If I showed you that clip, you would definitely think twice about some stuff. But even then, even seeing it, people would ignore it and forget about it and just go on about their life because you're not really visibly being harmed by it. It just seems innocent. And I think the shadow banning doesn't really hurt people the way that they think it does or they feel it does, because if it was really affecting them, they would probably maneuver differently. I don't really care about the shadow banning at this point. I'm gonna still say what I want and do what I want until you kick me off everything. And even then, I'll find another way to use a different platform, and I'll start over again if I got to. But we need our comedy to stay comedy for real. I like the uncomfortable stuff. When white people be talking about black people on the stage, I don't get bothered by it. I know you're e- either you're being truthfully honest about how you feel, or you're not. You're still up there getting paid to do a job. I'm not that emotionally disconnected that I'm just gonna riot and stalk you because you said a couple of words. You can't control how everybody feels about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the flash goes off in infrared. Yeah, he's right. He know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, somebody else said the facial recognition for law enforcement. And I think that's why it's important to have these conversations. Like you said, it seems like, oh, it's nothing. I've been talking about this stuff for, because again, I went to school for media studies, you know, so privacy laws, all that, uh, what's at risk. And most people have told me, like, well, still going to use it anyway, or it don't really matter. You know, I remember in the past, the only way that your phone was really off is if you took the battery out. Now they made it so we can't take the battery out. Why is that? You know, so if you don't want your phone to spy on you, and I don't know if this is still the case, but you would have to put it in a microwave for it not to pick up 360 video and 360 audio around you. And it's constantly collecting that. Almost everything we post is going to the Library of Congress. You know, all of this stuff is being monitored. And I think now we're starting to see the more evidence of what it's being used for. And a lot of those stories aren't getting out like that. People whose Alexa has been used against them in court, you know, and now that we have like this deep fake uh, technology, someone could take my voice right now, you know, and make it to create a confession for something, you know. Um, so it might get like this is something that probably won't affect the majority of people, but there's a potential that it affects somebody. And especially if you're in certain worlds where you are, oh goodness, I think lately people have been people that were talking about ICE on social media and people that were talking about maybe Palestine. Um, they are putting them on some sort of list. But again, I've been a part of activism work since I was a teenager. This is not a new development. And so when I see people say certain things, even when they saying like anti-Trump stuff, like 20 years ago, you couldn't do that without the FBI showing up at your door. So you think you're in a more fascist environment now, it's loosened up, but it's getting back there, you know?